Welcome to the PHONEWORD workshop session on Thursday, September the 17th, 2020. It is 9 a.m. Arizona time, and this is one of our sessions that happens every Thursday at 9 a.m. And we're talking about a new global directory for matching human-friendly addresses with machine-friendly addresses and how you can participate in that. And welcome to the session, Mark. Can you tell me what attracted you to the session today?
I'm currently learning Python programming, and I want to design databases, and I would consider myself to be in the user experience design role. So just open to continuing my learning.
Okay, cool. A little bit of a side note. Are you familiar with the Interplanetary File System, IPFS?
I've heard the term many times, although I have not implemented it in what I'm building.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just so you know, and we'll talk about this in a moment or two, but there was an event from July 6th to August 6th called HackFS. So you can go to hack, HACKFS, like filesystem.com. And one of the winning projects was taking the IPFS structure and adding a Python component to it. It's called Pygate. So it was one of the winning projects out of that. And basically, it's something you might want to take a look at as and it's in its kind of, prototype stage right now, but it is a way to start to get involved with the decentralized peer-to-peer construct called the Interplanetary File System and utilize Python, basically. Okay. So cool. Great. So you just saw the meetup and you said, what's this all about? And how can I find out more? So forth. That's perfect. Thank you for joining. So today's session is kind of a summary of where we've been, and this might be valuable to you, Mark, to kind of take a look at what is this thing? What are the topics that we've covered, and how might you participate, basically? Okay. So do you have any questions at this point, or?
Not yet.
Okay, cool. Let me go ahead and screen share, and I will give you a little more information, and then we can chat. So you should be able to see the presentation for today. So this is an open session, and really appreciate you joining, Mark. So basically what we're going to talk about is a little review of the past sessions that we've had starting back in early August, talk a little bit about the benefits. Why might this be of interest to you? We'll talk about something that's coming up called Canaries, and then we can go into basically some feedback and suggestions. So, the first question that usually comes to my mind when I'm looking at any kind of new project or initiative or so forth is, why should I be interested in this? And the first and foremost, the reason you might be interested in this is because this is a new dimension of the decentralized web 3.0. So what we are working with involves no central servers. You control your data, your communications, and basically it gives you a new level of freedom and connectivity to people, platforms, constructs that are important to you. So that's first and foremost. And in some of the past workshops, we've talked about that, and we'll touch upon that a little bit. But the other reason that this might be of interest to you is as one of the initial participants in the community, you can select 2 addresses, assuming that you're either a Desert Blockchain citizen or you're participating in one of the hack events. But you can select 2 addresses that might be valuable to you. Number 1 address is a phrase that's, complementary to your business, or a phrase that you think might have value out in the marketplace. And you can either develop that phrase, you can sell the phrase, you can do, hold on to the phrase, whatever you want with that. But number 2 is you can utilize another address or a listing that you can use for your personal communications, that you could also sell if you wanted to, but it's basically more random, may or may not spell anything, but it's either you use it based upon a random draw, or we can incorporate your existing cell phone number as part of the address. So those are basically the benefits that we're talking about. We'll talk about canaries in a moment after I'm done screen sharing, and then we'll just have some questions and so forth. But this is what we've done so far. The HackFS event involved a team of which I'm the founder and part of. It's called PHONEWORD Workshops, and there are basically 5 of us. And we participated in HackFS from July 6th through August the 6th. And this was 470 participants that produced 134 different projects, one of which was Pygate, which I mentioned to Mark a little bit earlier. And it really was an awesome event that brought together people from all over the world that are interested in taking Web 3.0 and moving it into the next level. And it also focused upon something called Filecoin, which is a new method of creating like a cloud, a decentralized cloud service where we can all be either storage providers or storage consumers. It's sort of like a ride share or home share, Uber or Airbnb for cloud services. So if you're not familiar with HackFS, I highly recommend you take a look at it. And this PHONEWORD Workshops was involved in that particular event, and this is a continuation of the initiative that we started. On August the 13th, we had a more elaborate introduction, and you can see that on our YouTube channel. All of what we're building is focused around Raspberry Pis, which are small board computers that can be networked together using this decentralized mesh structure. And by the way, Mark, if you're not familiar with a Raspberry Pi, there's a heavy focus on Python that's basically incorporated into the Raspberry Pis. And I will show you a Raspberry Pi that's configured as a Canary in a moment. But a Raspberry Pi is about a $35 small board computer that you can get. It was designed to be a learning instrument for students to teach them how to code. And the primary language that they emphasize to teach people how to code is Python. So that might be of interest to you. Are you familiar with Raspberry Pis, Mark?
I am currently using a Raspberry Pi at the moment, right now.
Cool. Awesome, great. So just to continue that, we are running the interplanetary file system code on Raspberry Pis, which is written in, we're using the Golang version. There's also a JavaScript version, but we're running IPFS version 5.1, which will be upgraded to 7 here shortly. We're using that for our peer-to-peer mesh network, and we're using something called libp2p as our transport layer. and we are using something called PubSub in order to do messaging between Raspberry Pis. So, you know, as a Raspberry Pi user and somebody who owns a Raspberry Pi, I think this might be very much of interest to you to get an SD card that you'll be able to plug and play and fire up a Raspberry Pi and connect to our network and message with us. So that's something of interest. Now, in addition to that, you can claim, you know, assuming you're a Desert Blockchain citizen or involved in one of the upcoming hack events, you could claim 2 listings and use that as your PubSub topic so that you can give that basically channel name out to your friends and so forth and start to communicate with them on a purely peer-to-peer basis. And we also have a method where you can save the communications into a file and then reconcile the file contents with the people that are on the channel for a particular day to assure that everybody has a record of the communications and it's something that you control versus it residing in a centralized cloud service or on a social media service and so forth. Then on September 3rd, we had another session on the overall global directory where we went into a little more depth. September 10th, we did an introduction to public keys, and this is built upon a directory that pairs human-friendly addresses and simplified index with public keys that you basically control and you can change over time. So much like the domain name system pairs a human-friendly internet domain like google.com with a machine-friendly IP address like 8.8.8.8, whatever it is. This directory combines a human-friendly address that you can pick and utilize, or you can go out and buy, with a public key, and that opens up some very powerful opportunities. So today's our open session. Let me scroll through the rest of the presentation. This is basically whoops, sorry about that. So this string starting with a QMU is a IPFS peer ID, and we match that with something like 1111 PhoneWord workshops, or 1-800-PHONEWORD, or 1-833-Hollywood. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of a human-friendly, easy to remember identifier or address matched with a machine-friendly identifier like this IPFS public key. So in terms of resources, I'll stop the screen sharing in a moment. We'll talk about how this fits into Canaries, which basically are Raspberry Pis, and we'll have additional resources that we'll be incorporating throughout these workshops. And here is our particular channel identifier, which is 1111 PhoneWord workshops. If you're running libp2p with PubSub running, you can connect with us on that. We have that open mostly 24 hours a day, every day of the week. You can think of it sort of like a CV radio channel where people can chat among one another. But the key is it is encrypted and there is no data tracking. It's not like communicating on one of the social media outlets where, you know, what you're talking about and so forth is being tracked. The other thing is we will have a more active listing service available where you can post your particular channel address for sale if you want, and basically ask a particular price that you'd be willing to sell that for. Some of the channels that have a preliminary assignment so far is 1111 Bitcoin and 1111 blockchain and some others. So here's some links to how to become a Desert Blockchain citizen, and also a connection to HackFS. And we do want to emphasize that this is an experimental project. All listings are subject to change or removal at any time. Got to use this at your own risk, and there's no emergency services associated with this. And here's our information, and below is how you can post a question. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to stop the screen share, and I'll show you I'll give you a little preview, Mark. This is what I'm calling a Canary, and it has a user interface where you can touch it and add data to the pub sub channels, also pull up some listing information, and we'll be having a session next Wednesday night, the 23rd, during the Desert Blockchain event, that we'll be talking more about the Canary, but it also will run on a smartphone. So this is using something called Node-RED. And have you ever played around with Node-RED, Mark? Okay. It's something you might find very interesting. It's a way to control IoT devices using your Raspberry Pi and create friendly user interfaces and so forth. So it'll run on smartphones, it'll run on Raspberry Pis, in this case with a 7-inch touchscreen interface. And basically that's it. So you have any questions or comments?
This is completely new to me, so I guess I would have to let it kind of sink in for a few minutes. So I probably could come up with some questions, but it might be better asked when I have my own channel set up, or my own address for communicating.
Cool.
So
what I would offer to you is what I would recommend you do is tune in maybe next week, and hopefully we will have an SD card, because you need to have this running. You need to load one of the latest versions of Golang, which can be a little tricky. You need Node.js running. You need to figure out how to set up Node-RED and some other things that we'll have pre-installed on an SD card if you become one of the early, basically beta testers for this. So yeah, I really, are you local to Arizona? Or are you elsewhere?
I am in the Denver metro area, although
Okay.
I mean, I don't think I've attended a meetup in Arizona, but I have a few connections that live in Arizona, and I've been kind of following a little bit about what's been offered through Meetup for this group. So
cool. There's quite a bit of activity in the Colorado area around the decentralized web, and I would highly recommend you check out a project called Textile, TEXTLE, I think it is. And there's a fellow named Carson Farmer who taught at either the University of Colorado or Colorado State, and he does some excellent, he does a 5-session, like 1-hour sessions on how to set up IPFS and basically comes up with a really cool end product, which is like a decentralized social media construct where you can have your profile and so forth. So you're in a great area. That's basically what I'm trying to say, and I appreciate you tuning into this. And by the way, you know, as we progress, we can mail the SD cards that are formatted and pre-set up pretty much anywhere. So anyway, unless you have any other questions, Mark, that pretty much concludes what I have for today.
Okay, yeah, I've got a few of these tabs open that you referred to, and this is actually very exciting for me because I think it is in alignment with what I'm trying to participate with. So I'm glad I got to listen in today.
Cool. Well, I think there's a lot of dimensions to this, you know, not only with the IPFS and the decentralized web 3.0, but also with what's happening with Filecoin, what's happening with Textile, Pygate, all of these things. And especially if you're already playing around with Raspberry Pis, I think this could open up some really cool things for you to pursue. Okay?
I agree.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in. And again, we'll have another session. We're planning to have Thursday sessions at 9 a.m. Pacific time, or same time as noon Eastern time. And we keep them short, less than 30 minutes, and just do like a little bit at a time. So thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you.